Thank you for coming today. I'm Attorney Gloria Allred, and with me is Rocxanne Deschamps. I'll be making a statement, and then Rocxanne will make her statement, and she will not be taking any questions, but I'll take a few questions. Today I'm here with Rocxanne Deschamps. Rocxanne was the next-door neighbor and close friend to Linda Cruz. Ms. Cruz was the mother of the Parkland school shooter, Nicholas Cruz, and his brother, Zachary Cruz. Rocxanne has decided to speak out today in order to help provide answers to some of the many questions that families of victims who were killed and surviving victims may have about why this tragedy may have happened and if it could have been prevented. Rocxanne reached out to me because she's concerned that there were many false statements made about her, and she wanted to share her truth about what really happened. Since she was the best friend and next-door neighbor of Linda Cruz, the mother of Nicholas Cruz and Zachary, she has important knowledge of what happened in Nicholas's home, as well as in her home when Nicholas lived there after their mother's death. Rocxanne feels that the system failed the victims of the Parkland tragedy, even though she did everything that she could do to prevent it. She is a mother of 3 children. Like all parents, she wants all schools to be safe places, not only for her children, but for everyone else's children as well. In my opinion, Rocxanne is a hero for her efforts to try and prevent what happened. She told everything that she knew about Nicholas and guns and his mental health issues. Each and every time the police came after 911 calls from her home. Nevertheless, law enforcement indicated to her that they could do nothing, despite the warning signs that Rocxanne shared with them. Her heart is broken for all of those who have suffered. She fully supports the marchers who will go to Washington on Saturday to make their voices heard in favor of safer schools and gun control measures that could truly make a difference in protecting the lives of children. As we speak out today, our heartfelt thoughts and prayers are also with the victims of the school shooting in Great Mills, Maryland, which took place this morning. This terrible tragedy only deepens our resolve and commitment to change and our support for those who will march on Saturday. Although there have been many efforts to win change that have taken place in the past, Rocxanne believes that this time, the voices of young people and their commitment to change can and must make a difference. We need more parents like Rocxanne, who did everything within her power to be alert to warning signs and make every effort to stop gun violence. Even if the efforts are ultimately unsuccessful, we must never stop taking steps to make our children safe. And now, Rocxanne.
I first met Nicholas Cruz when I lived next door to Nick, his brother Zach, and their mother, Linda, in Parkland, Florida. My son Rock was approximately 12 years old and used to play with Nick, who was like 9, and Zachary, who was 8. Linda, Zachary, and Nicholas' mother and I talked every day. Sometimes they would come to my house, or sometimes I'd go to their house. We became friends very quickly. She was like my mom. I sometimes watch the boys if she needs to go out. I would take the boys to bowling, boating, the movies, arcade, and water park. In October 2016, I stayed at Linda's house for 3 weeks with my children. While I was there, I saw a gun on the floor in the closet of Nicholas' room. The gun that I observed were not hunting guns. They looked like army guns. I saw at least 5 of them. The gun looked like assault weapons. They were very large. I also saw a large box of bullets. I saw Nicholas playing with and cleaning them. I asked my older son to check the weapon to make sure there were no bullets in the gun and to put the bullets in the safe. I asked Linda for permission to do this, and she allowed my oldest son to do so. Linda was afraid to do it herself because she was afraid of Nicholas. I explained to Nicholas that I was concerned about my younger child, that he could not have him be around loaded gun and any weapon where bullet could be placed in the guns, because he was 5 years old, and I needed to make sure that he was safe. I also made sure that Nicholas was never alone with my young son, and either I or my oldest son, my older adult son, was there to make sure that we were all safe. I was also concerned about the gun because I knew that Linda had told me that Nicholas had put a gun on her head in the past. In October 2016, Linda was a single parent, so she asked me if I was willing to take care of her son if anything would happen to her. I assured her that if something happens to her, I would be there for the boys. In October 31st of 2017, Linda drove herself to the hospital. She contracted pneumonia and the flu. The next day, the nurse called me and asked me to come and get Linda's boys. Linda didn't have much longer to live, so I immediately rushed to the hospital and spoke to Linda and told her that I would keep my word and take care of her sons. The boys were there and able to say their goodbyes to their mother, who were all crying. Within 5 minutes, Linda passed away. I took the boys to their home where they gathered all their personal items and their dogs. And I took them to my house. I remember there were guns in Linda's house. I told Nicholas that he was not allowed to bring his gun into my house, with the exception of the BB gun, which were to be locked in my adult son's room, and Nicholas could not have them if my younger son Tyler was in the house. All the other guns were taken to a friend's house, where I was assured by the friend's parents that they would be locked up. Nicholas lived with us for a little less than a month, and at first he was on his best behavior, but then we had to make a number of 911 calls. The first 911 call occurred because my mother had found a receipt of in Nicholas' room for a gun and bullet that he had purchased from Dick's Sporting Goods. We did not find any guns at that time because he was still on the waiting period to receive the guns. But we were very concerned, so Rock my son called 911. When the police came, we took them, we told them about the purchase of the gun and that we were very concerned. Then if we could, oh yeah, and I asked if we could stop him from getting the guns that he purchased. They said they couldn't stop him from buying or having possession of guns. I told them that Nicholas was 19 years old, but he felt mentally and emotionally as similar as a 12-year-old. For the second 911 call, my mom, who was also living in my house, saw Nicholas digging in the backyard, and she didn't know why. She and I went to look in the back, the hole, because I was concerned that Nicholas might have obtained the gun and buried in there. I did not find a gun there, but I did find a hole in the backyard in a large empty gun box, which was the same size as the hole. The box had dirt on the bottom, which appeared that indicate that Nicholas might have digging a hole to hold the gun box, and he might put a gun in the box. I was concerned. For that reason, we called 911. We explained to the officer that Nicholas had purchased a gun and that we were afraid of his intention. The police said that anyone was allowed to bury a gun and that Nicholas was allowed to do that. I was surprised because I thought that guns had to be locked away. For the third 911 call, Nicholas had been punching holes on the wall in my house. My son Rock intervened and told him that he must not disrespect me and not destroy our home. Nicholas punched Rock, and Rock defended himself. I called 911. By the time the police came, he had left the house. Nicholas had left the house. I told the officer that I was concerned that Nicholas would come back with a gun. I told the police about prior incident that I knew of in which Nicholas had put a gun to his mother's head and his brother's head. I also told them about other warning signs. I was very concerned that the gun which he had purchased might be brought into my house, or that he might get the gun and use it to hurt himself and others. Law enforcement said there's nothing could be done. When Nicholas returned to the house, I told him that it was going to be the gun or us. He had to choose. He could not have both. He chose the gun. I told him that I could not have guns and violence in my house, and he would need to find another place to stay. But that he could call me, and I would still help him, and I'd be there for him. But I could not have him living in my house and putting my family in danger. I could not live in fear in my own home. I even offered to help him find a place to live. Nicholas went to a friend's house to live with him. I warned the friend's parents about Nicholas. After Nicholas lived with that friend and his parents for a very short period of time, he moved to the home of James Need. I remain in touch with Nicholas and James. The day before the shooting, Nicholas texted me. He was worried about the dogs. My heart goes out to the victim, the 17th victim, and the shooting who were killed, to the 17 who were injured, and to all their family, to everyone who was placed in fear that terrible day at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. I did everything I could to warn law enforcement about that could happen. I wanted to protect not only my children, but also everyone else who might be at risk of being armed. I also wanted to protect Nicholas from himself. Unfortunately, although I did everything I could, I was not able to stop this tragedy from taking place. While Nicholas was living with us, I had begged him to go to the doctor to get reevaluated because his mother had passed away and he was very depressed. I felt that he should get back on the medication, and he had been refusing to take, but he declined to do that. He said that it didn't help him, and I could not force him to do it because he was an adult. I also suggest to him that he could help him if he talks to a therapist, but he refused. I am so glad that the young people in Parkland and across the country are marching this weekend in support of change in gun laws to help protect children at school so they could feel safe again. I am a parent and I am supporting them, and I'm very proud of them. I don't know how Nicholas obtained all the guns that he had, but given the fact that I have reason to believe he was mentally ill, he should never been able to purchase or have those guns in his possession. I hope that elected officials will listen to the voice of those who will march on Saturday. I agree that it is urgent that our elected officials take action on this issue of gun to prevent further tragedy like the one at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School.
Okay. I can take a few questions, but I think she's given extensive detail about the situation.
Is his brother Zachary still in Roxanne's care?
I'm sorry, I can't hear your question.
Is Zachary still in Roxanne's care, and if so, does she have a statement of what happened yesterday?
Yeah, we have no comment on Zachary.
Is he still in her care, though?
I understand he is in the custody of law enforcement.
What was the timing of the 911 call? When were they?
They were all during the time that Nicholas was living in her home.
You know, in the
Within
last month.
that month period, I don't have the exact dates to provide you at this time, but law enforcement could give you those dates because they have them. In fact, some of the 911 calls, I don't know if all three, but I know that some have been already provided to the press by law enforcement.
Is Ms. Deschamps still seeking to become the administrator of the estate of Linda Cruz?
Both Zachary and Nicholas are adults, and they have a probate attorney. his name is Jose. I can get you the last name a little later. And so he would be able to comment on who is seeking to be the personal representative. As far as I know, it was going to be Zachary, since he is an adult. That's who the attorney is. The prior attorney made certain statements that Rocxanne would dispute, but in any event, the present attorney, the new attorney, is Jose.
So she's not still?
She is not seeking, well, let's put it this way, you should speak to Jose. I'm not the probate attorney.
Don't you know? And doesn't she know?
You would have to speak to the probate attorney.
And what
She,
were
since they're both adults, you would and they're represented, you would need to speak to them.
what were the
She is
statements that
not,
she disputes?
pardon me?
What were the statements that she disputes?
I'm not going through those at this time. This is today, it's about Nicholas and it's about the victims, and that's what this is about.
Why does she need an attorney to talk about it?
Okay, well, she does. She has one. We have no further comment. Thank you for your question.
Has Rocxanne been in touch with Nicholas at all? Has he reached out to her? Has she reached out to him? Has there been any contact?
Yeah, we don't have any comment on that either.
Lori, can you respond to a judge order to have Roxanne's house searched for guns following Zachary's arrest?
No.
She called 911, but did she call the FBI?
She called there were 3 911 calls from her home, and that's the only comment that we have at this time.
What
So
medication?
law enforcement was notified 3 times.
She describes some instances where he was clearly.
I'm sorry, I can't hear your question.
She describes some instances where he was clearly showing tendencies for violence, but I'm wondering specifically if in the short period of time he lived at her house, if he ever expressed fantasies about a mass shooting.
Yeah, we don't have any comment about that. But I will say that we have not covered every detail that she talked to law enforcement about, that she shared with them, but she shared everything she knew. In other words, what was said today and then some that we are not discussing.
What medication was Nicholas on?
What?
What medication was he on?
Yeah, we don't ever want to invade anybody's privacy to say what medication they were taking. But as she indicated, she felt that he should be taking his medication, his prescribed medication, and he declined to do so.
Gloria, today a judge in Manhattan denied President Trump's attempt to dismiss a lawsuit from your client, Summer Servos. The judge wrote, quote, "No one is above the law." What's your reaction to that case, and do you and your client still plan on moving forward with the lawsuit?
I'm very happy,
Lori,
and I have no further comment. Yes.
can you give us some insight of, I know Nicholas has had that he passed. However, what was his relationship like with his mother in that home, and was it after her death that really set him off?
Yeah, we can't comment on what set him off.
Will Zachary go back to live with Ms. Deschamps?
I'm sorry, I can't hear your question.
Will Zachary be living with Ms. Deschamps again?
We have no further comment on Zachary.
So can you elaborate a little on what the purpose of today's event is? It's to express your sympathy, to set the record straight about what exactly that
It's everything that she said, everything she shared.
Well, I mean, we have to go through and make notations about.
No, you don't have to
What's been written so that we understand.
Yeah, you don't
what
have to
the
make
text is.
notations because I gave you a copy.
No, but what's she correcting? What in the record is she correcting?
Okay. She has no further comment on that.
Is Roxanne still in possession of any items belonging to Linda or the Cruz family? Any
Yeah,
jewelry, cars, furniture?
we don't have any comment about Linda, or may she rest in peace. No, she has no comment about that. Okay, just to also share with you that she's not planning to do interviews at this time. But we thank you very much for coming.